Alright, hi everyone. We're back again and we're going to do a little review. So we already talked about hardware, the actual equipment or the devices. So you can think of here's all the hardware. And then we talked about software, and surrounding the hardware is software. Software communicates to the hardware. And then we talked about people, and people are out here, and people communicate with the software. You have software programs on your devices, whatever device it is, that allows you to get the hardware to do what you want it to do. And in a lot of cases, you may not even know what it's doing. And then, finally, we also talked about how we can communicate via a network nowadays, for example, the internet, all over the world. So we can have computing devices in one location communicate to computing devices in another location. And we gave the example of the internet being in between, or it could be right in campus. Like you could be on campus here and you could have your computer communicate with a printer and print some information out. Networking. Actually sending. What we're sending are bits. We use binary numbers to represent what the computer is doing. It's actually keeping these circuits on and off, but you don't have to necessarily worry about that. So we may have something like this, and that represents something. Okay, it might represent a dot on the screen, it might represent a letter, it might represent part of a sound, maybe a dot on a frame in a video or whatever. But we use bits, binary numbers, to represent what's in the computer. Bits. We group those bits together and we get the term bytes. Typically 8 bits gives us a byte of information. Why know that? We usually measure how fast things move through a network by bits per second. And we typically measure how much memory or storage a computer has, how much of this you can accumulate, typically in bytes. Like you might have a terabyte hard drive, okay? Or a 2 gigabyte flash drive that you carry around, okay? Now, here's a way that I like to follow in the course is we talk about data, raw facts, okay? For example, my birth date. That's representing my birth date, okay? So we can use bits to represent a date. It's actually represented like a number in the computer. Information is something useful we can do with that date. We can take that birth date and we can create some information. We can figure out, the computer using software can figure out my age. Okay? And this happens all the time. We store raw facts or data, like a bunch of words in a word processor, and then the software allows us to bold or make it more useful, create it into information. And we're doing that all the time. Okay? The data on how much something costs is stored at online, let's say, or even in a store. The data of how much something costs is stored, and then we go grab that and we bring it to the cash register in order to make it information, or to figure out how much to charge the person and the tax and so forth. Okay, that happens by a very simple process in which we input something, the software processes it, and then we get it out. And we'll talk about all those specific ways. Like, for example, on your phone, your input is usually done with your finger. You know, you touch and sliding and so forth. The phone processes what you got, and then we get something out. You know, it might be you're sending a, you're looking up something on a website. So you browse to the site using your fingers, and the output is the site is sending something back to you that's of value, that's information. We typically save or store data, and then from that data, we create information. Data is typically converted or processed into information, raw facts to organized facts. That's a good little way to think of it. All right? And so throughout the term, you'll hear me talk about taking data and converting it into information. You store all these ones and zeros on your iPod, and then the software converts those into music. Another example. And that's it for section 1.2, day-to-day information.